A report in the Toronto Star talking about the fact that a child or youth is shot in Ontario almost every day. This is according to a study that has attempted to identify at-risk groups for firearm injuries. Now, in the study, based on government, health, and immigration databases, and published in the Canadian Medical Association Journal, a team of Toronto researchers has found that Canadian-born youth, particularly males, have higher rates of unintentional firearm injuries compared with immigrant youth. Study also finding there were an average of 355 firearm injuries a year every year between 2008 and 2012, when a total of almost 1,800 firearm injuries were reported among children and youth in Ontario. Joining us to chat about this a little bit more is Tracey Wilson, who is the Ontario Director, Chair of the Board with the Canadian Coalition for Firearms Rights. Thanks so much, Tracey, and good morning to you.
Hi, Eric. Good morning. Thanks a lot for having me on today.
Absolutely. Thanks for your time. Tracey, I just want to be clear. You guys were not a part of the study, right?
No.
Okay.
No, of course not.
Okay.
No, we weren't.
Okay. So I just wanted to make that clear. And so what are your general kind of thoughts when you heard about the study, when you heard it come out, what are your thoughts on it?
Well, I'm glad you asked that, Eric. So, I'm a mom and I'm a grandma. I've got kids in the age groups that they describe. And when I first looked at the articles published about this, it was sort of sold as kids playing with guns or, kids accessing guns. But if you really click on the study and drill it down a little bit, it's pretty easy to show that the overwhelming majority of the victims described are male aged 20 to 24 from urban centers with socioeconomic issues, maybe a lack of opportunity. And I think it's pretty clear, what the majority of these injuries are. The other thing is the study didn't include any ICD codes. So those are the disease codes where they describe the methods or types of injuries. So this study is so sweeping and broad. It can include anything from Nerf guns to paintball, air rifles, police interventions, the G20 summit, gang activity. So I think the general purpose of this was sort of to paint a picture and, a little bit of fear mongering. But if you drill it down, the actual information in the study is pretty clear that that's what it tells us.
Yeah, and then certainly, layer on top of that as well, Tracey, the fact that, the way that it can be reported as well, right, could sound a little alarmist. I got to be honest with you, when I first saw the headline, if the word Ontario wasn't in there, you'd think it's a study from somewhere in the United States.
Absolutely. I mean, we've got to be honest. This is an engineered, manufactured crisis that's geared at encouraging the introduction of more gun control. I mean, if you compare the actual impact of legitimate firearm injuries, especially among real children, children, it's so minuscule compared to every, other everyday dangers that are out there. I think it's pretty misleading, and that's, we did a rebuttal on our website, ccfr.ca, and you can see where we kind of drilled down the information a little bit and just laid it out in a more honest, practical manner.
Yeah, and for the folks wondering, just to be clear, the study was done by the Institute for Clinical Evaluative Sciences and Toronto's Hospital for Sick Children. So let me ask you this, Tracey, and of course, having the fact that you've laid out what you have. I mean, I'm sure even with that, there are accidents that happen. I'm sure that things do happen with guns, unfortunately, and so I guess my question is, if there is a story of, let's say, a youth or a child that accidentally fires off a gun or something like that, hurts themselves or worse, what are the mistakes that would have to go on to happen in that case if it was accidental? I'm talking about, right? Because obviously we have pretty strict rules already.
Absolutely. In the Firearms Act, there's an entire section on storage laws. It's Section 5, subsection 1, and it very clearly lays out how firearms and, even ammunition, how it's to be stored and kept. So if you're not following that, then you're responsible for what happens, right? The majority of Canadians who are PAL holders. We're law-abiding, licensed gun owners. We've had this training. It's the actual honest, incidents of children getting a hold of firearms is literally so minuscule it doesn't register. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, and I'm not saying there isn't some area here for some education. We're all about that. We are advocates through education. We want a safer Canada, and we want to see valid, legitimate work happen in the areas of crimes and gangs. I don't think imposing any more legislation on the people following, the rules as it is going to have any effect on public safety. Nothing in this study indicates if these are actual PAL holders anyways. Are these people, gun owners? No, of course they're not. I think we've got to just be a little bit more honest about it. I think it does. The one good thing I'm going to say about the study is it does show that we do have a problem with young people and gangs in this country. And I think that's, it's time to look at that.
Take me through. Sorry, Tracey. Take me through what somebody needs to do in this country or in the province of Ontario to become a gun owner.
Well, first of all, you've got to take the PAL course. So there's the Canadian Firearm Safety course. So you take that. It's a 2-day course. It goes all into areas of law, safety training, safety protocols. Goes through all that. You've got to complete an exam. Once you've done that and you've passed all that and got a good grade on it, that's sent on to the RCMP, where there's a background check done on you. There's an extensive look. If you've got a partner in your life, a wife, spouse, or a common law, that's got to be reported. If you're in a new relationship and maybe you had a relationship prior to that, that person's got to be contacted. It's a huge, massive process just to even get your PAL before you can even become a gun owner and go and purchase yourself a firearm legally. So, it's I don't want people to get the impression that it's just a matter of running out to Walmart and picking up some semi-autos. It's this isn't the case. There's an entire process to it. Canadian firearms owners are very serious about their safety. And, I think if you drill down those numbers and look at legitimate accidents, sure, they can be prevented. There's room for some improvement in the education field there. And just to reiterate our training and our knowledge. But, the numbers, it's not exactly honest. So.
Okay, now they did report in the study, or at least in the Toronto Star, they do say that 3/4 of firearm injuries are among children and youth are accidental. They say, and they go on to say that speaks to the importance of gun safety and gun storage for manufacturers and gun owners. Do you see an issue among people who are gun owners in this country, specifically with gun storage?
Here's the thing. The storage law is there, right? We're required to lock up our firearms or to, keep them disabled. We're required to do that. So the framework is there. Now, it may be an issue of enforcement, and that would fall in the hands of law enforcement. If somebody is not keeping their firearms stored in a safe and legal manner, then, let's impose some legislation on that or, some punishment on that. This is the thing. The framework already exists. So, there's really, I don't understand what more they think we can do to be safe other than just reiterating that you need to follow storage laws. I encourage all Canadian firearms owners to follow them to a T. It is about safety. Right. I've got kids and grandkids in my house, and I've got all kinds of guns, and it's very safe here. Mistakes are preventable. And it's unfortunate. You never want to see a kid pay the price for an adult being lazy or just not being compliant. So, take the extra time to make sure that you're following the laws and make sure your home is safe. I think that the manufactured crisis here is a little bit alarming.
Well, it's kind of, Tracey, like, the whole distracted driving thing right now. Obviously, we have laws and rules in place, and it's just a matter of people following them. That's right. And if they don't, then enforce it. You hear a lot of times,
somebody does something wrong and then they get out on good behavior. Or, I'm not exactly sure what happens with the justice system once it goes into the courts, but, there's certain things you can prevent and then certain things you can't prevent. And the things you can't prevent, then you need to punish it. But I think, punishing the people who are doing the right thing doesn't really solve the root of the issue. And I think there's been a lot overlooked in that study. The overwhelming majority of the victims, like I said, are males ages 20 to 24 in urban centers. I'm not a doctor, but I'm a pretty smart person, and I can figure out exactly what's going on here. And it's an issue with gangs. The Liberals had promised in their platform to give the provinces and territories $100 million to fight, to work on crime with the Guns and Gangs unit. Well, in the new Liberal budget, that's been removed. So why is that? That's something that I think that would have a positive effect on public safety. Yet it's been removed. So I'm not sure what imposing any legislation on law-abiding gun owners is going to do about that problem. So, I think it's not a bad study in the way that it brings some issues to light.
Right.
However, the presentation of it was a little sloppy. So
yeah, Tracey, thanks so much for taking the time and adding some perspective. Really appreciate it.
Okay, thanks a lot, Eric, and you have a great day.
Okay, you as well. Tracey Wilson right there is the Ontario Director, Chair of the Board for the Canadian Coalition of Firearm Rights.